Jack McDade. We're back. We in the last episode we talked all about your work with Statamic and your career, designer, developer, full stack person, flat camp, and all that goes into that. But your most recent thing, I've seen you kind of talk about this for a while. You finally launched it. I picked it up, called Radical Design. I don't buy courses in general. Like I very rarely buy online courses these days because I have almost no time to actually go through them. But like, your whole concept for radical design, I feel like I was like, this is speaking to somewhere where I'm at. And I've been a designer my whole career. I make websites. And one of my challenges as a designer and bootstrapper and entrepreneur and everything is that like I feel like every time I design a site, it's still I reach for the same formula, like headline, subheadline, call to action, some body copy, and really all my sites start to look the same. And your whole concept around like radical design, like putting so much like personality into it, kind of spoke to me, and I'm kind of going through it. So. Awesome. I'm really glad you did it. I mean, tell me about it. Like, how do you think about radical design as a product or as a course? What are you trying to put out there with this?
Yeah. Oh boy, where to even start? That is such a big question. I mean, my goal with radical design is to I kind of have two target demographics, two audiences that I'm trying to hit at the same time. The first is people who don't know how to design. Maybe you code, maybe you're a writer, but you're kind of involved in this web world thing. You've got your toes in, maybe you build WordPress sites, but you just can only click. And you want to think about how to create something that like matches your imagination of what it could be, and not like the sometimes sad reality of like the 3 boxes of text you have to fill in to make the thing in Squarespace, right? And I want to teach that person how to think about design, and then how to like build a process that will allow them to plug that into everything they do, not just landing page design, but like everything that they touch. The other audience is burnt out designers, people who feel like they've got nothing left in the creative tank and are, I mean, sounds like you, like kind of iterating on the same sort of concepts, which are fine. Like they're probably good, but they're starting to just all look the same and not stand out. And you're like, how do I get back to that part where I was like giddy about launching a design? Because it was like, so like, I've never done this before. Like that feeling is what I'm trying to like rekindle. It's either new fire and stoke the embers.
Yeah.
And
I feel like for me, it's been like, because I feel like designing anything, I'm trying to solve a problem. And
for sure.
If it's a product, if it's an interface, it's like, what's the user trying to accomplish here? Let's design an interface for that. But if I'm designing a site, almost anything that I'm doing, I'm trying to sell something. It's usually a marketing site for a product.
Yep.
And so if that's the problem that I'm solving, it ends up being like, here's a big H1 headline with speaking to the benefit or the problem, and then a subheadline and writing the and it's very copy based and using design and styling to make it digestible. Right.
Right.
But that's how that's where I feel like it just becomes so formulaic, and I tend to reach for safer and safer options, whether it's fonts and images and layout ideas, because I'm like, that's what sort of works when it comes to selling.
And what's easy to code, like in a limited amount of time, you're trying to get it done. Like, this would be a lot easier to do it this way because I can just code it like with Tailwind and whatever. Yeah.
So like, I mean, with your stuff, just your design approach in general, all of your different sites, you could really tell it's just very personality driven, right? Like it's radical for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly
you could totally tell like there's a lot of you in your work as a designer, which is awesome. Like I was saying, like even like the docs on Statamic are like hilarious in their own right, you know?
Yes.
And the site obviously for radical design. The other day when I bought it, I clicked pricing, and then there's an audio pricing thing. I was like, oh my God, that's ridiculous.
And then if you click FAQs, it goes fuckwees. Like it's like mispronouncing stuff. Yeah.
Sweet. So like, I guess that, I don't know if there's a question here, but I guess that what I'm wondering is like, so for students of this course or anyone in general, like, you know, it wouldn't make sense for me to design like you, Like we
Exactly.
probably have different
Correct.
personalities, different backgrounds and everything. So like, how do you think about teaching other designers how to bring out parts of themselves in their design, or how do they think about that?
That is, to me, that is the most important part of the course. The first two sections are kind of dedicated to that. The third section is where I like, now let's take all those ideas and let's just do a design together. But it's the mindset piece in like how you, before you open up Sketch or Figma or even just your code editor and start slapping something together, what are you coming to that page with? Is it a blank page? Is it a blank slate where you're like, where do I start? Dang it, this is really, really hard. And so you pop open the last website you looked at and you're like, well, that's pretty. And you just kind of just start like, copying whatever the trend is. So I wanted to build the designer lifestyle into people where throughout your daily life, you are intentionally noticing the things that like make you happy. Like if I pan my camera over here to the left, I've got a bookshelf full of 80s and 90s stuff. I've got my old Star Wars, VHS collection, and I've got a copy of Cool Runnings and a Jack Sparrow doll, all this kind of stuff, like things that just sort of like get me excited. And you need to start like collecting those ideas, taking pictures of them, taking screenshots of websites you like, book covers, albums, all that stuff, and start building like a curated inspiration library until you have so many ideas that you feel like you have to make something in that vein, and then just let it spill out all over the page. And like that process and like how to build a system and how to organize that and how to get that mindset going so that when you open up your design app, you like 20 ideas come out instead of like a half of an idea.
Yeah.
And then
that's such a great way of putting it. Like the designer lifestyle, like,
yes.
And that is something that I notice with all of my favorite designers. Is like you look at their walls and it's just filled with inspiration,
Yeah.
And that I think for me, that's one of my weaknesses is that it's like I do like just in time inspiration where it's like, all right, I know I need to design a new site. I'll spend a day looking for ideas, and it's like I wish I had been looking for ideas for the past year, but instead I'm packing it into one day. And
like you save that stuff as you go because you don't know when you'll need it. And also everything you create that you decide not to use, you save that too. You save everything. You become a digital hoarder, and if you do that, you are never starting from empty. You want to create from abundance, not from scarcity. And that mindset, I think, there you go. This is like the key of the whole course. Now you don't have to take it. This is what I truly think makes the biggest difference. And sure, like we get into how to design things and make styles and gradients and boxes and do layouts and all that kind of stuff. But like that kind of stuff, you can, when you finish the course, you can go find really good YouTube videos on how to do whatever in Photoshop or do whatever in Figma. Like that, there's tons of that type of content. There's nobody teaching how to think like a designer, how to shape your life, and like how to organize like a designer so that your subconscious is doing 3/4 of the work for you.
Yeah.
And
that's literally why I picked up the course, was because I feel like it even just from the name, radical design, but obviously like watching your stuff, and it definitely, you could tell that like you're getting more into that like deeper lifestyle choices and like creative choices that like I can go on YouTube and get any Figma tutorial I want,
once you know what you want, how to XYZ, it's really not that hard. The real challenge is, what do I XYZ? Like, what even do I want? What am I even trying to? It's like you don't know
idea generation and like like I guess there still could be like a process to experimenting and exploring ideas.
Yes, I do get into that. I mean, there's more than just this vague high level idea, but that's the driving force. And the course has only been out for like a week and a day. And like the early feedback, people have already gone through everything and are experimenting. For them, it's clicking. Like, and I'm super glad, because I didn't know for sure that this approach would actually work for other people. Like it works for me and like a couple of the people who kind of went through the early content, but it's clicking, and it's clicking consistently for people. And not only, and they're not designing like me, which is what I'm also hoping for is what you curate and bill as your like library of inspiration, the stuff that like gets you excited, doesn't have to be the 80s and 90s. Like I'm not teaching you how to do this like retro brutalism design. I mean, I'll show you whatever you want to know, like as far as techniques go. But if, you know, for example, someone really loves like old timey, like black and white baseball cards and like fisticuffs and like that old sort of like style, you start to collect all that stuff and you're realizing there's a couple of these like fonts that are always kind of in all of these things. I need like a chunky font. I need this, and I need like grainy textures. And you start to build like a little library of elements. And all of a sudden now you've got like your own design style that matches the thing that you're into.
Yeah.
And applying that personality to a product or a personal site makes you stand out, because like everybody's just doing the linear website clone background with like a nice like a glow behind your dark mode screenshot. And you know
that's the thing. It's like anytime I'm designing something new, because I'm a designer developer, I tend to, the only sites I ever know to find for inspiration are like developer tool sites, when I'm
the ones you
like
can't
not
avoid,
even doing something that's a technical audience, you know?
So you're like, for me, I recommend going offline, like find stuff in other industries and mediums and go like grab that for ideas, movie titles and like album covers and all that kind of stuff, like posters, artwork, old magazines. Like get ideas that people aren't recycling 1,000 times. Like, yeah, it's kind of hard to make something truly original, like 100%. But if you can draw inspiration from something most people haven't seen, it sure feels like it. And in your industry and your product or your audience, it feels fresh. And that's the goal. That's what we're trying to get to, where you're excited to put it out there. People look at it and go, oh, that's cool. And they remember it. And it's different than everybody else's stuff.
I love it. I'm curious, like for you, I mean, you're the founder, you're running Statamic. This is a well-established product at this point, as we talked about in the previous episodes. Like 12 years in, you've got a team, you've got a fantastic customer base and everything. I'm always sort of amazed, and I get psyched when folks like you, who would normally be like super focused on their one successful product, you go off and do a radical design course. Like why for you, like why do a course? Is it like something like, tell me about that.
Why do it? Because I would always be mad at myself if I didn't. I had the idea to do it. I announced it 4 years ago, and then the world collapsed, right? Like COVID, and I ended up moving, and all sorts of stuff happened. And like, it sort of started to feel like it wasn't going to happen. But the reason I wanted to do it in the first place is like, I feel a little bit like a square peg in a round hole in my own industry, because I'm coming to the web from a guy who wanted to make movies, right? And we talked about in the last episode, like I wanted to go to film school. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to create something where I could sort of control like the flow of time through how someone experiences something. Like I want to guide people through my content, and whether it's video or text. And like if you look at my stuff from that lens, like, oh, Jack's trying to like make this a story. Like that's what I'm doing. So I felt like, as a square peg in a round hole, I was on to something though. Like the stuff I put out there like resonates, maybe not at the scale of other people. Like, like a Tailwind CSS is like with millions of people, or, Laravel with millions and millions of people around the world. Like I'm maybe not at that scale, but the things I do create resonate deeply with people. And I think there's something there that sometimes the scale is just right place at the right time, right idea. And there's like nothing you can do. Like you do the best you can, things take off, things don't. But if you can connect deeply with someone on an idea, and they, I just have people would send me emails like, oh, I just love that design you did for such and such. And it just like, it got me all excited about something. I'm like, that someone took the time to send me an email and just to thank me for a website design I did because it made them happy, or some like little detail on a website. Like, I loved how when I clicked, the little guy went, wee, and it just made my day. Or sometimes I clicked that and it made a loud noise and it woke my wife up in bed. And like, so I'm like, sorry,
Right.
maybe that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
But
I love it, man. Like, because you're right. Because there's so much, especially in our circles around like product and startups and software companies and businesses. It's like, stay focused. It's like, do minimum viable this and that, and do like, the most efficient path from A to B, because resources are scarce and all that. And like, I always get psyched when people throw something different to like, look, there's value in making something fun or interesting or exciting or just different,
Yeah.
And so you again, like you're running Statamic, but you do the course, you're doing these like, occasionally it looks like you're doing like site, like design work. You did one for Justin Jackson. So it looks like you're taking like little projects here and there, like off, like to keep things fresh, keep working on different stuff.
Every now and then I'll take usually a pretty small scope project for someone I know personally, or something that's just really fun, as just a way of keeping myself sharp and having to not just think about what I like, but also like, okay, let me make sure that what I'm doing and how I approach this stuff still applies towards like solving someone else's problems.
Yeah.
And I turned down a lot of stuff. I turned down something really big recently because it's not about the money. It's not about like getting my name on something out there anymore. It's about like, is there a connection between someone else's idea and what I like to do, where it feels like it's in line with my inspiration gallery already. Like, oh yeah, I have like ideas are like, I'm working on that right now. It might be done by 5, right? Maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, I'll do something small like that for somebody. I'm kind of like, I'm thinking about it being more of like a punch up script writer. Like in the movie and TV show industry, people write scripts and then they'll hand them off to like a punch up writer who will like do a bunch of alternate jokes and like rewrite a couple little scenes to like punch them up and make them more interesting. I feel like that's something maybe I could do that fits that niche where I scratch an itch.
It's limited enough, but you can still add a ton of value.
Yeah. But I really don't have the need or time to be doing like client projects. It's just not the stage of my career anymore.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I could also see how like the stage of Statamic is like, it's so established. Of course, you're still working on big stuff over there.
Right.
But this is a chance to like just really get your hands dirty with something like fresh, or like start something new, like a course, like start up a little product that has like a start and a fin and like a launch date, and then it's done.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I wouldn't start another Statamic, like another whole business that requires a team and a separate set of employees, or split the team that I have onto 2 products. I don't have any interest in doing that. But because Radical Design is like a different type of product, right? Like, I mean, I'm going to make more videos over time, but I just love creating content and I love design and I love teaching people how to get excited about this stuff. For me, it doesn't feel like the same type of work at all, and doesn't require day-to-day bug fixes and PR management and like fixing issues. And like, it's a website with a buy link with a whole bunch of videos hosted on Vimeo in there. And it's less work to keep up with than in a product. So it felt okay. Like I was willing to commit to having that in addition to Statamic. Yeah,
for sure. Well, hey, Jack, I mean, all of your work is super inspiring to keep following along. So, you always keep it interesting. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to keep using your stuff. It was great to connect with you. And this went longer than I expected, but
hopefully awesome. People still listening. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for willing to go deeper. I appreciate it. Cool. I think going deeper is something that everybody needs to do about everything and all your relationships, and just being authentic. It's like just being willing to make mistakes and put yourself out there. Nothing's perfect. It's just important. And that's what sets you apart from everyone else trying to be perfect. Don't even try.
Good stuff, man. Yeah. Well, we'll get all your sites, linked up in the show notes and everything, but Jack, thanks for doing it.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian.